Hey solos, so what is going on with Disney these days and what is going on with the Solo Magic podcast? I would love to tell you. Hi everyone, it's Samantha. Olaf may not know who Samantha is, but now you do. And welcome to the Solo Magic, the #1 podcast for solo travel to Disney World. In this episode, the very first episode of July, I'm going to do some July announcements. I'm going to talk about some different things that I am launching this month, but I'm also going to talk about the two giant bombshells Disney dropped this week. One about the changes to Genie Plus, and the other one about all of the different Christmas dates and Christmas festivities. This won't be like a should you go to Disney World this Christmas time type of episode. I'll cover that later in the fall, but this is going to go over the different dates and also talk about the changes to Genie Plus, how it might affect you, although of course because it hasn't been rolled out yet, we don't know a lot of details about how it will actually affect you. And then I also will talk a little bit about some of the different things I have coming up this July. So before we get into it, just a reminder that you can subscribe on Apple, Spotify, and YouTube, and you don't have to pick one. You can subscribe across all three of them, and I would encourage you to do so. It would also be really, really awesome if you went through the back catalog, or this episode, I guess, and share at least one episode with at least one person, like a multi-level marketing scheme that doesn't cost anybody any money. It's just really wonderful to see the numbers grow and to see the community grow, and it would be really awesome if you could do that extra step to help that growth. I am available on Instagram, Disney_solo_magic, as well as on Facebook, Disney Solo Magic. There's also a blog, DisneySoloMagic.blogspot.com, old school style. All the links to those social media elements are in the description of this podcast. And one of the announcements for July is that I am now on Threads, which is Disney_solo_magic, just like Instagram. In the last month, I've kind of dabbled around Threads, especially because Matt Richardson, who I interviewed, as well as Disney Bound Solo, who I also interviewed very, very early on in the podcast, are often on Threads. And I see their suggested messages on Instagram, and I'm always so eager to engage with their content. And so I decided this July, I'm going to be a Threads person as well. And that makes me sound really old to say it that way. Say it however the kids say it, I guess. All right, why don't we get into the main content of this week's episode? Okay, first things first. It's July the 2nd, therefore let's talk about Christmas. I don't know. For some reason, the halfway to Halloween announcements was very exciting. Maybe it's because we were getting out of winter and it started, I don't know. But the halfway to the holidays does not feel quite as exciting. When I saw all the announcements last week, there was literally no joy at all. I was like, oh, we're not ready for that yet. It's still the summer. We still have the summer and the fall. However, it is good to start planning your vacation in December if you are interested in going for the holidays. But, and this is a Threads call out, although I don't have the name of the content creator who said this, but somebody on Threads said that they should just call it Countdown to Christmas because it's really the Christmas holidays that they are celebrating. They aren't celebrating all of the holidays. Now, just to be clear, I am a very pro happy holidays type of gal. There are so many holidays that happen in the winter area, in the winter season, and I definitely think that when we are celebrating the winter season, we should be inclusive of all of those holidays. But at Disney, it is a Christmas celebration. It is definitely a Christmas celebration. There isn't a lot of winter solstice or Hanukkah or Diwali, although Diwali is actually October 31st this year, or Kwanzaa. There's a little bit, not of winter solstice. I think that's too pagan for Disney. There's a little bit of Hanukkah. There's a little bit of Kwanzaa. There's a little bit of New Year's, but really, the star of the show is Christmas. So I also think it should be Countdown to Christmas. When they announced their Countdown to Christmas, I think that makes more sense to say, when they announced the Countdown to Christmas, they identified that at Animal Kingdom, the big giant puppets that they do for winter characters are going to be back, and they are very cool. They also talked about how the Festival of the Holidays will be on in December at Epcot, which is also really great. The Festival of the Holidays is the 4th out of the 4 Epcot festivals, and while it says that it focuses on the holidays, it really does focus on Christmas. Now, there are some areas in the World Showcase that identify other traditions other than Christmas. There is, for example, a Jewish storyteller that talks about the story of Hanukkah, but by and large, the International Festival of the Holidays, it is the Christmas festival at World Showcase at Epcot. And that's great. Like, the Christmas trees are beautiful. There's always some delicious food. The storytellers are really awesome. So it's actually a really great place to go and spend Christmas. Disney also announced that Mickey's Very Merry Christmas Party is going to be back, which is an after-hour specially ticketed event that has a parade and has a stage show and has its own fireworks show. It's just like a Christmas bonanza. I have never been, and this year I will be going, and I'm very, very excited. I decided this is the year I'm going to go. I was kind of waiting to go to the Christmas party when my nieces and nephews got a little bit older and that we would all be able to go and celebrate Christmas together. But you know what? I had such a great time going solo to Mickey's Not So Scary Halloween party last year that I thought, yeah, you know what? I'm just going to do the after hours party for Christmas myself. So I'm really excited to go this year. They've announced all of the dates. There's dates through November and December. There's 24 different dates, and the price will change depending on how close you get to Christmas. The very last date is the 20th of December, winter solstice. I don't think there'll be any sort of like winter solstice extravaganza that day. But there's a lot of dates around American Thanksgiving, for example, if you wanted to bring some of that into your festive holiday Christmas cheer during that time. Disney also announced that Disney Springs will be doing another Christmas tree stroll, and that's really cool as well. Like, if you are all about the Christmas trees, definitely go check out Disney Springs. There are Christmas trees around Disney Springs, all on the outside. It's actually free, so you don't even need a park ticket or whatever. If you're in Orlando, just go check out Disney Springs, and you can go look at all the different Christmas trees. They usually have a scavenger hunt where you can put stickers on it and stuff, and yeah, you can be inspired by all of the different trees. They also said that the Christmas trees and the gingerbread and all of that stuff will be at usually the big monorail hotels will have these big gingerbread things. Although that's not entirely true because Yacht Club and Boardwalk also had gingerbread stuff last year. But anyway, there's a few deluxe resorts that have these big gingerbreads. All of the resorts have trees. It's really, really cool. You can just do park hopping to be able to see all the Christmas trees and the Christmas decorations. And so all of that will be back, which is really awesome. And again, later in the fall, I will talk about all that stuff in detail. And I have a ton of pictures I want to share too about what some of the decorations looked like last year. However, the biggest announcement that they made, I feel, because I kind of have been waiting for this announcement since last year, is that Jollywood Nights is coming back to Hollywood Studios. So if any of you have been paying attention, oh, that sounds a little judgy. If any of you pay attention, less judgy, to any kind of Disney news, especially in the last year, you know that last year there was a new Christmas event at Hollywood Studios called Jollywood Nights. It was really promoted heavily. I think people really felt like it was going to feel like old Hollywood across the streets of Sunset Boulevard. Then they also talked about a Latin street festival, and there just was this element of a lot of glamour and a very adult type of event. The very first Jollywood Nights was the same weekend actually as Dapper Day. And I really kind of imagined, according to the promotional material, that should be a hint of what I'm going to say next. According to the promotional material, that it really was going to be like a formal Dapper Day at night at Hollywood Studios. And it sounded really, really cool. But there was something about it that I just was like, I don't know if I should get a ticket yet because it's, expensive. It's an after hours event. It's expensive. I don't know if I should get a ticket yet or kind of see what people think about it before I decide if I wanted to go on another night of that trip, because I was there that first Jollywood Nights weekend. And let's just say, I definitely heard about it, and I was glad I didn't have a ticket. The first night was a bit of a disaster. I think that is fair. That is a fair assessment to say. It was a bit of a disaster. Some people had a great time, but most people were really, really disappointed at the lackluster everything, the lackluster execution of everything. Nothing that people kind of had in mind really showed up in the way that they kind of envisioned it. And that was really, really disappointing for a Disney event. I was talking with this one woman on Instagram, I think, and she flew in from California and got a whole special outfit that she just wanted to wear for Jollywood Nights. And she came that first night and it was like, why did I come here for this? It was not very exciting at all. And from the videos and the pictures that I saw, I'm really glad I wasn't there. I would have been really, really disappointed if I was there. Now, to Disney's credit, they really took that negative feedback very, very seriously. I saw a lot of people online talk about how Disney reached out to them, or they did surveys and they got a lot of feedback. Some people called wanting refunds and they got refunds, or they got their tickets moved to a different event. And in those conversations, the cast members took a lot of feedback. And by the time they did the second Jollywood Nights, it was a much, much better event. They got these random characters that don't often come out. They brought them all out and they really tried to make it a much better evening. And everyone after that first night said that they really had a good time. But to me, it was always like a failed execution, but a really good cover up. That's not the right way to say it. A really good, I don't know, some of you can probably think of a sports term to use as an analogy here. So I'm going to let you fill in the blank. They fumbled the ball, but then they picked it up and did okay. Maybe they didn't score a goal, but they didn't not score a goal. I hope you enjoy that. If you want to tell me if there is actually a good way to say that sports-wise, or okay, anyway. So I was really, really interested to see if they were going to try again with Jollywood Nights, or if they were just going to be like, you know what, we tried it. We don't really have the resources to do it the way we kind of envisioned, and we'll just move on. But no, this year it is back. So there's going to be 13 different days in November and December. They aren't the same days as the Christmas party at Magic Kingdom, so you can go to both if you would like. It's a longer event than it was last year. It's 5 hours this time, and it goes to 12:30. Last year, people were saying that it really, really felt short, especially if you were waiting in lines to go see characters. One of the things that they're promoting this year are characters, a lot more intentional characters than last year, where the characters were brought in to be how are we going to save this? Let's bring in characters. So this year there's going to be 20 different places that you can go and meet different characters. They also have a lot more photo ops this year, and a photo pass is included in your ticket, which if you don't have photo pass, if you don't have photo pass normally, then that is a really, really great deal. One of the things that people really complained about at Jollywood Nights was that nothing was included in the ticket. So for the Christmas party at Magic Kingdom, you can go around and get cookies and hot chocolate at all of these different places. And that is part of the after hours party experience. It's no additional cost. That wasn't the case at Jollywood Nights. But now they're adding an extra little treat when you leave the park. And I think that is, it's something if it is not a big extravaganza. Last year, too, the only merchandise they had was a black t-shirt, which, any stretch of imagination, that is lackluster. This year, they have a lot more merchandise. So the sense that I am getting is that it really is going to be an event where it is more an adult event. You can do all this posing and all of these different special kind of characters you would get nowhere else. And they're really trying to build up this idea that this is kind of a unique event. So it's taking all of people's hopes and dreams and the successful things they did last year and being able to turn that into an event in and of itself. Another thing that they're adding this year is a skating show, an ice skating show, which is really interesting and really unique, kind of. So I was in an Uber with a guy in Orlando this year, last year, I don't know. And we were talking about Disney. He's a local, obviously. And he was saying, I actually really like the stuff that's happening at SeaWorld for Christmas a lot more than the stuff at Disney, because at SeaWorld, they have all these extra things, including, and then he said ice skating. And so I thought it was really interesting that they're bringing ice skating in, because I think that SeaWorld does it as well. So maybe it's not a wholly original idea, but hopefully it is a really cool addition to the event and to the offerings around the holidays that Disney provides. Now, I think it is going to be much better than last year. I think it's going to be a lot more organized in how better it is than last year. But for me, I don't know. I'm just not particularly excited about it. If it really was like a dapper day at night, just through Sunset Boulevard, and we all dressed up and there was jazz music playing and dancing and canapes and drinks and all that stuff, I think I would be into it. But I don't know. I'm not like super excited to see like Phoenix and Herb, or is that their names? Or like the Goof Troop people, like those aren't my particular characters. So I don't know. For me, I think it's probably going to be a no, but I'm really, really excited to see what it looks like this year. So those are the Christmas announcements. I'm going to look for some people who have gone to the Magic Kingdom Christmas party solo, or even just as an adult, to be able to share their experiences in a solo story. And I'll put a whole bunch of things together in the fall to talk about whether or not you should go to Disney World as a solo this Christmas holiday festive season. So look for that episode then. The other big announcement that came out this week is that Genie Plus is no longer, or it won't be any longer in a couple weeks. To be honest, I'm not really surprised about that. When Tiana's Bayou Adventure was announced that it was just going to be a part of a virtual queue and it wasn't going to be a lightning lane, or it wasn't going to be like, like the special fancy rides, to me that was a real signal that something else was coming, because they know that they'll be able to make a lot of money on people wanting to ride this ride, and that if you have these individual upgraded prices for a fancy ride, for example, you'll be able to make a lot of money doing that. So to me, it's not a surprise, the timing, because of Tiana's Bayou Adventure. But I'll tell you why the announcement is particularly heartbreaking for me right now. Because I've recorded not one but 2 Genie Plus episodes that were supposed to go out this week. In fact, the announcements episode was going to be very, very short, and it was going to go out on the 1st of July. And then on the 2nd of July, which is the day that you may be listening to this, the day that this was released, I was going to put my Genie Plus episode out. And then I did a separate Genie Plus episode where I showed, or I talked about my strategy by pretending I was using Genie Plus from the comfort of my own apartment, and I talked about my reasoning for some rides over others. And it was kind of a surreal episode to do, because it took all day. I woke up at 7 a.m. to pick my first lightning lane. And it took me all the way through to 10 or 11, and I had all these graphics and stuff like that. And so I've been really thinking about what do I do with those 2 episodes? Just trash them? And I'm going to trash the longer one. But this week on July the 4th, American Independence Day, I think I'm just going to release the other Genie Plus episode, the one that I did around my apartment, because I did it. It was fun. And I guess you can just hear my reasoning. I don't know. It might just be fun, odd to listen to. But the other thing that I was thinking about why might still be a useful episode is that the new Fast Pass system, which I'll talk about in a second, especially when you're going solo, requires you to make decisions, just like any sort of, Fast Pass or Genie type of system, right? If you're planning something in advance, you're still making decisions. So I just thought it would be useful to kind of show what a decision-making process was, even if the thing that I am making, those decisions don't work in the same way, I guess. One of the things that spoiler for that episode, one of the things that I reflect on at the end is how much you're in your phone with Genie Plus. And the new Fast Pass system, which is the old Fast Pass system, which again I'll get to in a second, is supposed to get you away from that a little bit, which I think is really good. But you still have to make decisions. So anyway, I hope the fun Genie Plus episode is good for the American Independence Day as an extra little bonus episode. Now let's talk about the new Fast Pass system. It's not called the new Fast Pass system. It's called the multi-pass or single pass lightning lane. But everyone is just calling it the new/old Fast Pass. So the Fast Pass system was the system that they had right before Genie Plus. Before your day in the park, you could pick 3 different rides or 3 different attractions that you could return to at a particular location. So you would go into the park at the beginning of the day, already knowing that you had Pirates of the Caribbean at 11 a.m., maybe Peter Pan at 6 p.m., and Seven Dwarfs Mine Train at 8 p.m., something like that. Then with the Genie Plus system, they changed that to a paid system. So the original FastPass system was free. They changed it to a paid system. And rather than choose things in advance, you would choose things kind of on the fly. Now, this had a lot of problems. Like I said, one of the problems is that you're in your phone all the time, like, checking and checking and checking. It's really not that great to kind of be in the moment if you're always trying to figure out your next ride. However, they are going back to a system like they had with FastPass, in which you are choosing up to 3 different experiences before you go to the park. However, like the Genie Plus system, this new system has a price for it. And that price, just like the Genie Plus system, will change depending on the park and depending on the day. And so, for example, if you were going to buy a multi-pass Lightning Lane package, whatever they're calling it, on Christmas Day at Magic Kingdom, it is going to be way more expensive than if you were buying the multi-pass at Animal Kingdom on January 15th, for example, which is not going to be a very busy day. Now, as a podcast about solo travel, as a podcast about adults going to Disney, the price of Genie Plus or the new Lightning Lane system, to me, isn't terrible, in that if you are an adult traveling by yourself, then to pay this one extra fee per day to be able to organize the day the way you'd like it, I think is, for a lot of people, like a cost that they can absorb without too much kind of thinking. Now, that's not to say that it is completely affordable, but if you're planning on going to a Magic Kingdom and you're only doing one day, putting out $25 extra, it's probably like, whatever, what's another $25? Doesn't mean you're going to do it every day, doesn't mean you're going to do it every time, but again, when it's only just one cost, I think like, okay, fine, I'll pay. Fine, I'll pay. I've talked in an episode, I can't remember which one it was, that I bought Genie Plus just so I could skip the line at Kilimanjaro Safaris, because I like that ride, and anything else was just a bonus that day because I had one day. I wanted to spend it the way that I wanted to, and that additional cost wasn't prohibitive for me. But if you were doing this with a whole big family, a family of 4, a family of 5, a family of 10, all of a sudden that price goes up. Even when it's 2 of you, the price goes up. So I'm not going to talk too much about the price because this is a solo podcast. And I think that the price isn't as terrible for one as if it is for a whole family. And for a whole family, it definitely can become cost prohibitive. However, the changes to this particular system is not something that they talked about right at first. And this one I do think is a little bit tricky. It is now a tiered system. So before it was a bit of a tiered system because there were certain rides, fancy rides, that have an additional cost. Oh my God, it gets so complicated. I'm so sorry, everyone. I'm so sorry it gets complicated. Okay. So there is still those quote unquote fancy rides that you can just pay one fee and do that ride. So Guardians of the Galaxy, Tron, right. So those are completely different. But the multi-pass, when you can do these 3 rides before you arrive at the park, this is now on a tiered system. So there is some rides that there's a list of them and you can choose one from that list. And then your other 2 you can choose from a different list. So if you were hoping to get the multi-pass and do Jungle Cruise, Tiana's Bayou Adventure, and Peter Pan as your 3 rides, there's no way you can do that. Those 3 rides are part of that first tier. So you can choose one of those 3, and then the other ones you can choose from a different list. So you can choose Carousel of Progress and Aladdin's Flying Carpets. 2 attractions, rides that don't really need a lightning lane, right? So all of a sudden it becomes kind of uneven. When I look at that list of secondary rides, a lot of them aren't ones I would prioritize at all. And if there was no line for them, I'd be like, okay, sure, I'll go on that. But I wouldn't go out of my way to like organize my day around one of those anchor rides. You know what I mean? So it'll be really interesting how that works in practice. So this tiered system is going to be in place for Magic Kingdom, Epcot, and Hollywood Studios. It's not in place for Animal Kingdom, which is kind of interesting. Now, another thing that happened when this announcement came out was, oh gosh, how quickly, if you are creating Disney content, how easy it is for you to get really negative about Disney when there are these changes. And these changes in particular, I don't necessarily think are positive, but it's really interesting, like how quickly people can go to just like critique, damn the man type of stuff. And just all the kind of editorializing of these changes felt really negative. And I was really thinking a lot this week about how to hold kind of a critique for Disney at the same time as holding the kind of principles that all of us as solo travelers really love about Disney. A lot of the things about like healing, for example, like how do we talk about going and having amazing times and engaging in kind of healing work that we're doing internally, but also be like honest and critique certain things that the Disney Corporation's doing. So I'm really trying to think about what that balance is for this podcast. I don't want to just talk about all things positive and kind of ignore the big issues that are happening, but at the same time, I also don't just kind of want to stay in that negativity for the sake of negativity. So anyway, just going to think about that. Another thing that's happening are changes to the DAS system, and that's been really interesting to watch kind of from afar, and it actually seems to be really punitive for solo travelers who are on the DAS system. But I've been kind of waiting to, although actually I did do an episode about the DAS system, but then it changed right after, so we cut a whole bunch of that stuff out. But I am really interested because I think that they will have to change it very soon to respond to a lot of critiques. So until then, I'm kind of keeping eyes and ears open. But if you have experience with the new DAS system, you can let me know, and it'd be great to talk with you for a solo story. All right, so those are the two big giant news things that happened at Disney. And then the other thing that happened at Disney was the opening of Tiana's Bayou Adventure. And there really isn't anything to say about that, but what a joyful celebration that seemed to be from afar, sitting at home, looking on Instagram. It was just so, so wonderful to see how joyous, how celebratory it was. I know that there was a lot of Black and brown content creators that got together to be able to like celebrate the opening of the ride, and it was really, again, just so joyful to see how meaningful these changes have been for people. And I'm really excited to see what these changes will mean to kind of Disney and the Disney brand, to be able to really bring in diversity as kind of a core featured principle and not something that just kind of complements the rest of the thing. So that's my optimism towards these changes. And again, yeah, what a joyful celebration. And if you've listened to Special Spice, which is one of the new songs from the ride, you'll know that Joyful Celebration is a key element in that song. I cannot wait to ride the ride when I am there at the end of August. And yeah, I'm avoiding all spoilers until that time because I just want to experience it and ride it for myself. All right, and we are almost at the end. I just want to talk about a couple of announcements for the Solo Magic podcast as I wrap up. So number one, thank you all so much for going back in time with me and visiting the new blog, DisneySoloMagic.blogspot.com, just like you would have created in 2005 if you were alive by then. I'm like looking at the date. I don't think anyone that young is listening to this, but I mean, I guess you could be. Hi. So I'm really excited about the blog. It's been really cool to like put blog posts together that kind of correspond with the episodes. Like I talked with Farah Roshan in June, and I put on a whole big blog post with just some of the links to her books and things like that. So you can see not her whole corpus of work, but you can see a big chunk of her work. So please go visit. There's also, as I know a lot of you have found out, a lot of you had visited that there is a calendar, which is really cool because if you go on the calendar, you can be able to see an overview of all of the different events that are happening at Disney. So for example, if you went on in July, you could see the days that all of the different after-hour parties are happening, as well as the dates that the drone show is happening at Disney Springs. And that is definitely worth going and checking out. However, because there are now Christmas party announcements that are made, you can now go onto the calendar and check out all the Disney parties. So you can go see, if you want to go like in a week in December, which days the Christmas party at Magic Kingdom is happening, which days are happening at Jollywood Nights, etc., etc. So definitely go check out the calendar. And thank you for those of you who have already gone and read and clicked through and all of that stuff. It's really awesome. The other thing, like I said at the beginning of this episode, is that I'm going to be on Threads now, so that's something. Hopefully Threads is more fun than Twitter was. I mean, it's a different audience. When I was on Twitter, it was really like professional, and so, I guess it didn't get boring. Anyway, whatever. Let's hope that Disney Threads is a lot more fun than Twitter was/is. I'm really excited to be able to engage with you on Twitter, engage with you on Threads. The programming for July and August is really fun, if I do say so myself. Next week, I have an interview with Melissa from David's Vacation Club Rentals. We talk all about the Disney Vacation Club, how you can rent points, how you can stay there. I want to give a shout out to Britt on Main Street, who talked about doing this on her own solo trips. And I reached out to David's Vacation Rentals because they are also a Canadian company. And I was like, hey, do you want to do an episode to talk about this in relationship to solo travel and like walk me through how you would rent DVC points, and so that other solos could also do this. And Melissa was really awesome. We had a great conversation, and so her episode is going to be out next week. And then from there, I'm going to talk about the value resorts and the moderate resorts all through July and all through August, so that you can, when you are picking one of those hotels, you can think about the pros and cons of going to one of those hotels as a solo. It would be really awesome in the future to be able to go to all the deluxe resorts, maybe through David's Vacation Club, rental points, etc., to be able to do that as a series for the deluxe resorts as well. But right now, I'm just going to talk about my experiences with the value and the moderate resorts. At the very end of August, it's my birthday, and so I will also be doing an episode around Labor Day about celebrating your birthday solo at Disney World, and I am really excited to do that kind of birthday celebration with you. Now, not to get too far ahead, but it was really easy actually to do programming through September as well, because so much is going to be happening in September. There's going to be the Halloween parties. There's going to be the Food and Wine Festival. I've done all this planning on like non-park day activities at the different resorts that I can't wait to share with you. I want to talk about character dining. I want to be able to talk about eating alone and all these like kind of big topics that people have about solo travel. And yeah, like I said, when I started making the list of what we could talk about through September and October, it was amazing how quickly the calendar filled up. I cannot wait to share that programming with you. I also love the solo stories I've already done and the ones that are recorded and have not been shared yet. There's going to be fewer solo stories in July and August just because, July and August, it's like sometimes it's hard to do some scheduling, and I have surprisingly some deadlines that are non-Disney podcast related that I need to focus on. So anyway, there's going to be fewer of the solo stories, but I'm hoping once the fall happens, we can ramp that up again and talk about certain topics like Run Disney, like the Halloween parties, like the Christmas parties, maybe even Jollywood. I can't wait. So again, please make sure you follow me on all the places that you can follow me, like Threads, because that's new right now. And please make sure you subscribe to the podcast, rate, and pick one episode. Maybe it's this, maybe it's something else, and share it with at least one person, just like a multi-level marketing scheme, but without any sort of parties you have to go to, videos you have to watch, products you need to buy, etc. Just good vibes everywhere. All right, everyone, until next week, bye. Hey solos, it's Samantha. I hope you enjoyed this episode and all the episodes of Solo Magic, the podcast about the magic of going to Disney World solo. Please make sure that you subscribe, rate, review, and share on Apple, Spotify, and or YouTube, wherever you listen to podcasts. And also please connect with me on social media, whether it's Instagram, Disney_solo_magic, Facebook, Disney Solo Magic, Threads, Disney_solo_magic, or our new blog, DisneySoloMagic.blogspot.com. It's been really wonderful to grow this community with you and for you, and I can't wait to continue to do so. So again, please make sure that you share, rate, review, subscribe, and all of those things so that other people can learn about the magic of going to Disney World solo. Until next time, bye.